Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
It's that time this weekend. We got the kiddos out there getting the first crack, getting some gobblers. Kids, if you're listening, if you're not in school for some reason, but you're listening, say some turkeys for Jake and myself. Jake Bolks joining us this morning, our good buddy, DNR Conservation Warden. Jake, how you doing this fine morning?
I'm doing good. Little foggy, little rainy, but a good kind of warmer weather. Spring red hard here.
Exactly. So, Jake, we've got the kids get the first crack of getting a gobbler this weekend and such. So it officially begins. Turkey hunting begins this weekend. Spring turkey hunting begins this weekend.
Yes, it does. So, yep, the spring season's upon us. There was some learn to hunt turkey stuff last week. Those are a lot different than the youth hunt. You know, those have to be you have to be enrolled in it, and landowners have to be enrolled, and the takes are different. But there were a couple people out there last weekend in the learn to hunt turkey program that were having some success. This weekend with the youth season, really important to make sure that everyone has licenses. So if you're a mentor, you're a guardian, you have what you need. If you're the parent for a kid, make sure you buy the kids hunting licenses, the turkey licenses, the turkey tags, whatever you need. It's not a fun conversation that we have to have, and we work through it. Don't get me wrong; we have a lot of discretion. We work through it, but it's never a fun conversation when a first kid's turkey or adult. Well, I guess we're in the youth season. The first kid's turkey is tainted with, you know, they didn't have a license, or they didn't have their tags right, or they didn't have this or that. So really make sure that you get everything up to snuff before you go out there on Saturday morning.
So, I mean, are there any special guidelines, rules for maybe like parents or such? Obviously, parents don't, or, you know, mentor or guardians, I should is the word I'm trying to find. You can't shoot and use your kid's tag, obviously, you know, that sort of stuff. But
right.
Anything else like special or any other notes before heading out this weekend for the kiddos?
Well, you know, I guess the main thing is that, like I say every week, read the regulations, because I can say something here, but it might get interpreted differently, or it's not all of the information. So really just pop open the hunting regulations, go to the turkey hunting section, and find the requirements that go with youth hunting. So you have to be under 16, and even if like the youth is 14 and has hunter safety, which generally that means they can hunt on their own, during youth seasons they still have to be hunting with that guardian. You can't just like send a youth out by their own, because that kind of defeats the purpose of the safety element and the learning and mentoring and guiding aspect of this. So so go take a look at those. The other thing is that you really want to make sure you look at the shooting hours. Spring turkey hunting obviously has different shooting hours than like the fall, because in the spring you have to identify that it's a male bird or a bird with a beard-like appendage, stuff like that. So make sure you just do your due diligence, get your licenses, check the shooting times, get everything ready, so when you wake up that morning and it's 3, 4 in the morning, you don't have to try to scramble to make sure you're doing the right thing. And then also it's one youth turkey per hunter. Yeah, that makes sense. Per kid. So there was kind of like an error in the regulations a couple years ago where it just said like one turkey per organization for a youth. So hypothetically that means you could shoot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. In the writing, the law has always been one turkey per youth hunter per season. Even if they have multiple tags for the rest of the seasons, they can only use one during this weekend.
Gotcha. Good point. Hey, staying with hunting here for a quick, because I think this is, you know, with deer season and such, I did see this, get the email from the DNR just, I think a few days ago, but it's the DNR seeking public input on the 2025 deer season. It's the advisory councils, the county deer advisory councils and such. So it's that time of year. And for anybody who has thoughts or opinions on the deer herd and the amount of tags, this is kind of an important time and a chance to make your opinion be heard, correct?
It is. So the CDACs are an opportunity. You know, there's So the CDAC is made up of like local representatives, whether that's always someone from like the agricultural community, like a business community, like a local landowner, and then like the foresters and the wildlife staff and the warden, and everyone sits down and has a conversation about tags and, you know, what we need, what we don't need, what we want, what we don't want. And an important part of it, kind of like the spring hearings, is that for these county CDACs, you can go in and sit and be a part of that conversation and explain what you're seeing in your area or where you hunt and what you want and what you don't want. The problem with these CDACs is that, you know, I've done it for many years being like the warden representative, that you go there and it's just like 8-9 people that are supposed to be there, have to be there, and there's no one from the public. Maybe there's 1 or 2 here or there, but there's been years where, you know, we set out 20, 30 chairs for people and no one, not a single soul from the public shows up. So there's still like public input online that gets read during the meeting, and there's still public input from like the representatives that are chosen for it. But, you know, it's just like the spring hearings next week. It's another opportunity where you can go in, talk to your local staff, explain what you're seeing out on the landscape locally, and try to make a change for what you want, or your constituents, or your friends, or, you know, for the good of the herd health, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Because this is, you know, for a chance, if you feel like there should be more tags or less tags or something like that, this is your chance to get that opinion heard.
Yeah, that's what those meetings are designed to do, is that, you know, everyone, no matter what, if you get an archery tag, you get 1 buck tag. If you get a gun, you get 1 gun buck tag, and those are statewide. So there's no conversation on how many bucks you get or this or that, but these are designed to decide how many tags get issued out. You know, does each county, you know, if you're in Eau Claire County, are we only going to issue 1 doe tag, 2, 3, 4 of them? Are we going to make a generally an area that's always been, you know, multiple tags, no tags, or this or that? So there's opportunity to work through that process.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of deer hunting, I got to admit, so I saw this story on deer and deer hunting yesterday for the first time, and it's apparently there was I guess they got to change the song now to 30-pointer to 49-pointer out there. But there was this, I saw this last night when I was getting ready for bed and looking at deer and deer hunting. I'm like, holy cow, a 49-point, 300-inch non-typical buck that was taken in Wisconsin. So, I mean, there's a lot of debate about it. I don't want to get into is it legit or anything like that. But, you know, I'm sure you heard about this story and such. But if somebody does have questions about, you know, like, well, is that really a record or such? How does the DNR get involved with stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's kind of it's interesting because, you know, the DNR doesn't set, you know, records per se. Like we make sure everything's legal when it comes to hunting and harvesting and registration and licensing and stuff. But when it comes to, like, you know, how you score, how you do, you know, the DNR doesn't have anything to do with that. Now, the DNR can get involved when complaints come in on any situation, and then we just try to find if we have legal authority over it or what's the case. So, like, this one, there's no doubt. I saw the Facebook post. It's an interesting looking deer. I mean, it's a big deer. I've seen a lot of deer that look similar to that, and you know, I guess I don't know anything about the case. It's over on the other side of the state, so just from looking at that deer, it doesn't look like your traditional public land deer. So, and I know we're getting a lot of complaints on that. Like, I think there's plenty of comments that said, you know, call the DNR, this isn't a legal deer, and yada yada. So, in these types of investigations, we get involved in different aspects of it. You know, we try to figure out, you know, first, like I mentioned, is there licenses? Is there deer registered? Is there this? Is there that? And then we kind of work through the process from there on whether it's legal or not legal, and if it's not, then, you know, how does that fit in with wild deer? Because a potential game farm deer, it's not a wild deer. It's actually, you know, game farm deer, game farm elk are just, you can compare them to moose, jeebers, to cows and pigs and stuff like that. They're a domestic animal. They're regulated by a whole different entity. They have different rules. They're not wild animals. They're game farm animals. So if it does end up being something like that, then we have to work through the process and working with different entities. But, I guess I haven't talked with the wardens over there. I don't know if there is anything going on. If there's not, I know there's plenty of complaints on it because I've seen them online. It does look like a interesting looking buck to be a wild buck. So the best thing is just to sit back and wait and put faith in the wardens and in the DNR in the process and just see what shakes out with it.
So you brought up a follow-up question I was going to ask. So, like, let's say there is a game farm and such. Do the same rules apply to go hunting on that than it is public, like same tags, or do you have any jurisdiction? How does that play out compared to public hunting and like a game farm hunting?
Yeah, no, great question. So, game farm animals, no matter what it is, it's just like I guess it's a private industry, and the DNR really has no say in it, and our regulations don't apply. So on game farms, you can go in there, basically hunt whatever time of year, hunt over all the bait you want, hunt, they can set a price on an animal, which obviously you can't do that in the public. We have some authority on like the fencing, the DNR does. Everything that happens inside of a game farm is controlled by DATCAP, Department of Ag and Trade Consumer Protection. Everything that happens inside of that fence is their responsibility, their jurisdiction, their rules. But really, you can look at a penned deer as just a cow, an expensive cow, an expensive pig, with antlers on it. It's the same type of procedures as a domesticated animal.
Interesting. All right. So
yeah. So it's a weird. Sometimes it's a fine line that we have to always like dance around with that cap on. It's like whose jurisdiction starts here, whose jurisdiction ends there, whose responsibility is it to follow up with this and that. And we work very collaboratively. Like we work really good together. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean in the sense of like who does the investigating on different types of complaints that come in and questions and stuff like that. So.
Good stuff. Hey, I know we want to get together and get you in studio especially with fishing season coming up here. So I want to save some of the fishing stuff for when we get together in person, if that's okay.
No, that sounds great to me. It's fishing's going, but it's slowed down a little bit anyways. So I think, including myself, everyone's got turkeys on the mind right now. Like you said, with the youth turkey hunt coming, and then the first season coming pretty soon. They're out there. I mean, I'm getting pictures. People are sending me pictures of their trail cameras with them all across their property. I'm seeing them driving down the highways, driving down the back roads. I worked in Jackson County all last weekend, and you couldn't go past a property or a field or something without a couple toms all fanned out, just big blocks of them just walking through it was raining, so they're all kind of jumbled together walking through the fields. There's a lot of turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Really mild winter.
Yeah.
Mild winter, so probably plenty of turkeys again.
You mentioned the trail cams. I don't know. I'm sure you saw it too, but I've been seeing people like on Facebook and posting. First of all, I saw somebody from Jackson County post an elk one, which was just massive. They saw an elk sitting out there, but a lot of deer still, some with antlers yet. They haven't even shedded them yet.
Yep, I've seen that too. I've definitely had people talking with the public and having some friends kind of joking around, like saying the rut's here because they've seen some deer fighting or scraping the ground and stuff like that. So I think the thing to think about is, it's the same with the rut in the fall. It's like not every animal, gets an email in the morning saying, all right, boys, girls, today's the day. We're going to start rutting. We're going to start sparring. We're going to start breeding. And then in the spring, today everyone drop your antlers, find a good spot for them. It's nature. Some of them drop them in the fall, in the late winter, early winter. Some of them wait and hold on to them forever, just depending on the topography and the stress they have and the need or need for it. So it's quite interesting to see that when you still got antlers hanging on in April.
Exactly. All right, Jake, appreciate the time as always, buddy. Good stuff. Enjoy the rest of the week, and can't wait to catch up with you again, bud.
Yeah, that should be fun. How did your bracket end up?
Oh, I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew you were going to bring that up.
We haven't chatted since national championship there.
Yeah, not good. My 7-year-old beat me, so
good.
yeah.
Hey, good for him. Maybe he's learning something from you then.
No, he's done that 3 years in a row now, so he needs to stop. So he's beaten me 3 years in a row. So yeah.
There you go. It was a fun game.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. So yeah, I was trying to avoid it, but yeah, I knew you'd probably bring that up. So yeah.
Hey, when I picked the first champion I've ever picked, I'm talking about it.
I would too, man. I would too. All right, buddy.
Thanks again for having me. We'll talk soon.